Welcome back. This is part 5 of our critical matrix of teaching and learning unit. So I'm going to continue to talk about the gap between understanding and also that ability to practice the knowledge, the content knowledge that students would acquire from our classes, and deriving from what Cobb said, learning is a process where knowledge is created through the transformation of experience. So that's the reason why experience is very important in the learning process. It should be a learning event that is meaningful for the students, because it would transform the way that they understand things and the way that they will create a process where they will make meaning and they would internalize what they are learning. So experiential learning has been talked about quite a bit in various literature, where it talks about how feedback can help in terms of students actively transforming what they learn through the provision of essays and reports, through giving presentations, getting them engaged in discussions in the classroom, getting them to work with people. Collaboration is very important, because collaboration is key in making people connect and also communicate with others. Getting them to perform experiments, solving things in a group, engaging in research-based tasks. So these are things that they would be able to use and learn, and they can also undertake projects and even assess their own peers. I've used assessment of peers in many of my courses, where I see that students sometimes can become very strict in the way that they assess their own friends, and sometimes they're more strict than the instructor itself. So it's quite interesting how when you turn the tables onto them, they're quite critical about that whole evaluation process, and that is a good sign, because that you are making them an opportunity to look at the way that they perceive their learning, the quality of their learning itself. So when we talked about looking at the different ways of how these gaps would be identified or addressed in the class, this relates to that graph that I talked about in the previous video. Now, in the dualism method, where students only see right and wrong, authority is accepted, and in moving on to looking at diversity between authorities, and looking at diversity as a temporary of a temporary value, right, until the authorities get the truth. This is where they start to question what they are learning, and they probably look at how to make sense of that in the way that they understand something. So you want to push them to go towards not just accepting the facts and opinions, but also to look at different ways of how to contest the facts and opinions, and to pick them and interweave them between one another. So as we go on to the rest of the list, the students would eventually get to the point where they can attach meaning to what they're learning. Here it says students accept the making, revising, and pulling apart, and creating new commitments to unfold the understanding of the content that they are working on. So when commitment is has appeared in the learning process, this is where you know that the students are actually investing their own values, and attitude towards something. In the gaps of having abilities and wanting to use and actually doing something, we try to move them in this range, where they start from just knowing what it is, how it's done, and maybe why, and we try to address the concept of the learner themselves, so they become a bit more responsive and responsible towards their own learning, and become a bit more self-managed, in their learning process, becoming a rich resource for themselves and also their peers, meaning that they create value within the way that they learn something. They become a point of reference for their peers, and as educators, you can do this. You can pick out like students in your class who probably need the opportunity to articulate what they know, and then use them as a point of resource for their friends as well, because this actually builds their confidence and the way that they will handle the teaching itself. Readiness to learn, having different types of mental models, and relating it to things that they've gone through, and to drive them towards making meaning from what they're learning. So that is quite important. Orientating them towards a more task-based or problem-centered task, where they need to solve, to come up with a solution to solve something, that would essentially motivate them to collaborate with other people, to talk with other people, to engage in creative and critical thinking as well. The motivation to learn, these are some of the things that we ultimately want to achieve in all of our students, but sometimes this achieving self-actualization takes time, and particularly if you're teaching adult learners, it does take time, because we have to deal with many layers of their own readiness, whether they are able to see or connect what they're learning with their own personal experience. And in this gap, we're looking at the opportunities to integrate different levels of changes, so learners will be able to use what they learn to apply to what they are doing in their own personal lives. So they become a bit more conscious of the contributions of the knowledge towards what they know as a person, as a human being. So the construction of multiple identities might happen when the students begin to question their own values, their own attitudes towards something they are learning. So the ability to create this opportunity is something that I think all educators must have. So students will be able to continuously integrate what they are learning, and to use that onto what they will apply in their own lives as well. In this next graph, you're looking at how the quality of learning is achieved through the interactions of all these different elements, where, like for instance, the approaches to teaching into learning. This is from the student's point of view, and these are all external. How these are provided onto them. So, like perceptions of how the environment is providing for them, the way that we set the climate, the classroom climate, the way that you talk to your students are very important, particularly now when you're teaching online most of the time. The way that you talk to your students do play a huge role in the way that they will be open or positive towards what you're trying to teach them. Previous experiences in teaching, learning, previous knowledge, and all that obviously will affect the way the learning is going to be achieved. The constructive alignment has got to happen between how the course content is selected, organized, presented, and assessed, with the way that the teaching and learning environment is designed. So this has got to talk to each other, these two things, and how students are expected to be understood, how they're expected to learn, This has got to be made clear. Expectations by the instructors has got to be clear, so that they know that what they're learning here is going to benefit what and how and why, and the way that it will influence the external entities like the academic community, whatever groups that is external to the class that will benefit from this whole process. This has got to be made clear. The influences from different groups of people outside of the class as well. So the way that we use our pedagogical knowledge, the way that we use what we know of our content knowledge, these are very important, because this drives the quality of how the course is going to be selected, how it's going to be created, how it's going to be implemented, plus the setting that we're going to be teaching them. So the constructive alignment here in the middle of all this basically derives from this, our ability of knowing how to teach and how much we know of the content knowledge that we're teaching. And the ultimate goal is for us to prepare our graduates for our own for their own future, in a way that they will own that learning for themselves, so they can become better, and they can fly with their own understanding in other situations. So I'm going to stop here for a bit, and I'm going to continue with one more video after this. Thank you.